everyone. It's your boy Richard Graves. How you guys doing this evening? First off, I just want to say I hope everyone had a nice weekend. Any of you who are blessed enough to have to get up and go to work tomorrow, be safe going in. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. I want to thank all you guys who've liked and subscribed to the YouTube channel. We got new music shows coming for the other channel that does our music and our history shows about house music and things like that. And also, we're going to have another channel that deals with more, spiritual, religious issues, more theological issues. But I'll announce that in a couple weeks. Apologize, haven't been on in a while. Been a little busy with work, school, and of course with my own personal writing. So I'm glad you guys checked in. What I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight. I was going to do a show next week about the Derek Chauvin trial. For those of you who don't know, I don't know who doesn't know, but Derek Chauvin was a gentleman who murdered George Floyd by having his knee in his neck for that extended amount of time, that 9 minutes or so of time. Um, I was going to do a show. I had lined up a couple of attorneys, some that were prosecutor, one that was a prosecutor, one was a defense attorney. And I had lined up some people who were from Black Lives Matter, a couple people from Thin Blue Line or, Blue Lives Matter and stuff like that, try to get diverse views on what happened. But then, because I was waiting to do it, as I was looking at Twitter and Facebook and all the different people that were commenting, I saw Van Jones, for example, comment that he didn't think it was justice. I saw some people in the Blue Lives Matter world that acted like, the guy shouldn't have got any time at all. So those are the range of things I saw. So in that, I said to myself, I said, well, I can, give more noise to that, give more energy to the, you know, black or white, this side, that side, people going at it. And, guys shouldn't have went to jail. Guys should have got life in jail. But I decided to take a different route. We don't need any attorneys and, commentators and political pundits on because I think that's just going to really make noise. And you guys know me. I try to take a path of trying to give some information and also trying to look at things to see what we need to do going forward in the future. So that being said, you know, it brings to mind a scripture. There's a scripture that says, "To the pure, all things are pure, and to the unbelieving and defiled, all things are defiled." Now, that's not saying that anybody who is one way or the other on this is pure or defiled, but it does set up this reality of the extremist dichotomy. You got people that if Derek Chauvin had got 100 years or life sentence or the death sentence, that still wouldn't have been enough. And then, of course, you got the people to the other extreme who, think that he should have got off and that he actually, didn't do anything wrong. Um, and obviously, anyone who's seen the video, uh, Derek Chauvin did kill George Floyd, just that simple. I don't know how anyone could look at the video and come to any other conclusion that it wasn't, now as far as for legal definitions, like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but I do understand legal definitions for working within the criminal justice system. And what he got charged with, he did not get a first degree murder charge, as a lot of people believe he should have gotten. We can argue that, to the cows come home. I can find 100 lawyers that are going to say he should have got murder one. And I'm going to find 100 lawyers that are going to say he should get involuntary manslaughter. So again, I try to avoid that because that really doesn't get us anywhere. Let's look at what actually happened. The man got 22.5 years. I think he's around 50 years old. So if he does his whole sentence, he'll get out when he's 72. If he gets paroled at 12 or 15 years, he'll be in his 60s. But in any case, this is a case where a police officer killed a black man, and this police officer is going to prison. Now, I understand there's the group of on the left, or those in different so-called activist organizations representing the voice of black people. They're going to say that, okay, this is a one-time deal. The same people that are saying a cop never got prosecuted for murdering a black person are now unable to say that. We have one. Now, there are others before this one, but this is a high-profile one. All right. And then, of course, the other side, again, you got people that don't believe he should get any jail time at all, that this was all George Floyd's fault somehow. But the reality of the situation, I agree with the judge. I agree with the judge, and I agree with the jury. The man was guilty, and the man was guilty. I believe the charge was a second degree murder. I'm not quite sure, but the man was guilty, and that's the reality of the situation. Man was guilty. Now the man has been sentenced. He's been sentenced to 22.5 years. That is a sentence. Now we can argue that there are people who've done less than a murder that have gotten more time. And those of you who have friends that in the system, you know that there are some people doing more time than that because they were in a car with somebody that murdered somebody, or they knew about a murder for conspiracy, things like that. And then we also know there's people who have done murders that have gotten less time. And this just goes to show in the criminal justice system the inconsistency. If you're black and or poor, you're going to get harsher sentences. If you can't afford a good lawyer, you're gonna do a lot of time. And that's just one of those things that's wrong with the criminal justice system, the inequity of sentencing. And that's just something that, that is there, and it's something we need to work on. I could do a whole show about that, but I'm not gonna waste your time. But I'm gonna say this, and that'd be a different show. But I will say this. I think the sentence was sufficient. Um, this is definitely sets a precedent. I think that law enforcement people need to take notice that that the tide has changed, and this is indicative of that change. Now let's see if we continue to see when the police are wrong, when they're wrong in using force, that there are consequences, and I believe this sets the case. I've heard some people in the Blue Lives Matter movement, oh, this means that police could be scared to do their job. Look, man, I don't know what to tell you. If you feel that part of your job is sitting on someone's neck for 9 minutes, that's the only way you could accomplish, gaining control and compliance of an individual, then I think you're in the wrong field. All right, you might want to think about something else to do with your time. Get a different career. It's just that simple. I know we've had this talk before. We realize that law enforcement sometimes has to use deadly force or lethal force in dealing with an individual, um, and that sometimes, and most times, I've seen as far as within the normal course of things, not the extreme cases we see that are that are broadcast on media. Generally the police are generally using the force necessary for the situation. However, for us to act like there isn't a problem between law enforcement and the African American community, a historical problem, is just disingenuous. It has been uneven, and more importantly, the officers, regardless of what color they are, that serve black communities, inner city communities, if you wish to serve those communities, you need to respect the people in those communities and treat them fairly like you would treat anyone else. And that's really ultimately what this comes down to. Which brings me to the question of policy. What's going to come from this trial? You know, I don't know. All the policy I've seen being pushed, even within our own state, and different states to try to address law enforcement reform has been predicated in emotion. It has not been really predicated on the practical policy of what needs to be done. But again, that's a different discussion. I won't go into that. All I'm going to say is that on the left and the right, you have people in their emotions, people who feel that the man should have got a whole lot more, been charged a whole lot more, and it's a pure emotional argument. And you got people on the right making the same type of emotional arguments, arguing that the man shouldn't get time at all. So like I said, I could have did show and got people on the left and the right, prosecutors and defense attorneys, and people going back and forth with their theories. And really, what good would that have done? It just would have been the same noise that we're hearing all throughout, that we've been hearing ever since Trump was president. The same, this versus that, black versus white, black versus blue, the same type of stuff we've been hearing for the last 3, 4 years. And honestly, none of that's helping anything. And honestly, that 22 years, that 22.5 is not bringing George Floyd back. His daughter is still without a father, and it's a sad situation for the Floyd family. And that's the reality of the situation. And I know there's a lot of people saying it's sad for the Chauvin family. Honestly, those of you who know me, when people kill people, I really don't have much sympathy or talk about their families losing out like it's equal and opposite. I know that obviously, if a loved one goes to prison, if your father goes to prison or brother goes to prison, it's hurtful. But at the end of the day, you can still go visit that person. The only thing the Floyd family has is to be able to visit George Floyd at the graveyard. And that's a significant difference. That being said, though, like I said, I'm not going to keep you guys. I'm gonna get back to my regular news programming. I'm gonna refocus and make sure that we're discussing some of these things. I got some guests that I intend to bring on, talk about some of the social political issues that we're having going on in the United States right now. A lot of things going on in Congress that are going to affect your day-to-day lives. A lot of things going on for those of you in Illinois with the General Assembly that are going to affect your day-to-day lives. These are things we need to talk about and just discuss and get that information out there so we know what's going on. But that being said, my prayers for George Floyd's family. Like I said, nothing is going to heal that pain except for time, and the pain will still be there. Any of us who've lost anyone know that truth, know that reality. So there's no talking that through, aside from coping with it. But yeah, I think George Floyd, um I don't think that obviously nothing is going to satisfy the justice on that. But as far as the justice that man gives in this world, I think the 22.5 years is sufficient, and it sets a precedent. And I think that people who are in law enforcement need to start thinking. And let me make this very clear: most law enforcement isn't trying to kill people, but for those who, I guess, feel indifferent to people that you think aren't worthy of respect, because you believe they passed a fake $20 bill or whatever it is that makes you not respect the person as a human being. If you can't do your job consistently, showing respect and with the professionalism for all people that you deal with, black, white, male, female, gay, straight, Muslim, Christian, whatever. If you can't do that job, then you really don't need to be in the job, because the job is to serve and protect. And I'm waiting to see what happens to the other people that were there with George Floyd, or there with Chauvin, the other officers, because personally, I think they're just as culpable and they need to get some significant time as well. Because I guarantee you this: if I and a couple of brothers, we go out and we do something like that, those sitting around watching me kill somebody gonna get some time too. And it's just that simple. So let's just keep it fair. Accountability. You were there. You had, in fact, you're more accountable because you're a public servant and you allowed and you watched this to happen. That goes for the emergency responders who came too. You know, there was a lot of, when watched the whole video, and those of you who can watch the whole video do, and you will see that it was a horrible situation that didn't have to happen. And for all you people who are super pro law enforcement to the point of absurdity, that want to sit here and say, who George Floyd was, what drugs he was on, what he did months ago or years ago, shame on you, bottom line. Because at the end of the day, none of that had nothing to do with what happened to him. None of that had nothing to do with, someone standing on his neck for 9 minutes and killing him, while the man is begging to breathe. But like I said, that's me. We'll talk again. Looking forward to discussing politics as we get closer to the next elections for governor in the state of Illinois. Again, thanks for everyone subscribing. If you haven't, like and subscribe. Look forward to talking to you later this week. Peace.